In this politics-crazy country, elections are like exhaust valves that let off a little steam. Not exactly Philippine democracy at its finest, but good enough to see how near or far expectation is from reality. That exhaust valve ever so slowly opened on the first day of the campaign, 90 days before Election Day for national candidates, just like today, February 8, and 60 days for local. And that which will ever be so slowly closed, although not completely, on May 9, 2022. We are about to go on an adventure, never before taken, a road never before trodden. For even if elections are just like the usual, there are still things we will see and hear in this uniquely Filipino horse race, this joust, this cockfight that we won't see anywhere or anytime else. Good evening, I'm Pia Hontiveros. Welcome to a special episode of Politics as Usual to mark the start of the 90-day national campaign period. Leody de Guzman, the labor leader who's used to marching on the streets, has a little bit of catching up to do with Leody de Guzman, the presidential candidate. Today's mishap had to do with, of all things, a permit for his proclamation rally. The most radical of the candidates. Translation, big business may be uneasy with him, needs to convince voters that he can be president even if it is by a very long shot. And if the pre-campaign surveys are to be believed, he still does have a long way to go. Now, Chrissy Di Matulak is joining us from Quezon City to report on Leody de Guzman's day one on the campaign trail. Chrissy?
Yes, Pia, after 38 years of fighting labor rights, Leody de Guzman says he is now ready to take on a bigger stage, the presidency. We are here now at the Pantayog ng mga Bayan in Quezon City for the Labor Leaders Proclamation Rally. The presidential candidate's campaign went off to a not-so-rousing start after the COMELEC announced that their camp failed to apply for a campaign permit. But it failed to stop Leody from kicking off his campaign. According to Leody, they are ready to face possible election wraps. But they do hope that it won't be as grave as a disqualification. More than 1,500 supporters from labor, environment, and transport sectors attended the rally. Leody did not invite any celebrities, unlike other presidential candidates. He says he wants to focus attention on his advocacies, such as ending contractualization and giving more opportunities for farmers and fisher folk. Former Congressman Walden Bello, his vice presidential running mate, is also here tonight, along with the party's senatoriables. Running Leody's campaign is Sonny Melencio. We have him with us tonight. Good evening, Sir Sonny. So what should we expect from Leody and Sir Bello's national campaign?
Well, this is just the start. Meron kaming mga susunod na mga activities. May mga maliliit na sorties, pero meron kaming mga calendar events, like what we call it. Like March 8, which is the International Women's Day. Yung April 22, Earth Day. May 1, of course, which is Labor Day. Metro Manila lang yan. Meron ng mga sa provinces, sa Negros, Bacolod, sa Cebu, doon po sa Samar. Inaayos na lang namin kasi gusto naming sabay-sabay na makapunta para makatipid din kami sa campaign, si Leody, si Walden Bello, at saka yung mga senatorial candidates namin.
Ms. Pia?
Yes, thank you, Chrissy. Sir Sonny, magandang gabi po and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. I wanted to ask you po, sir, itong this issue about the permit for today's rally. Bakit hindi na lang po kumuha ng permit? Ano po ba talaga nangyari? Because, a part of government work is abiding by the rules and, doing the paperwork. And if Leody is running for president, that would mean that he would be the head of government. So ano po nangyari doon?
Actually, Pia, may misunderstanding kasi, kanina pa nga yan, finalo up ko din dun sa team na naglalakad ng permit. Kasi yung permit na in-applyan, this is originally a proclamation rally na gagawin sa Amoranto Stadium. So ang application ay doon sa Quezon City Hall. And then, so meron silang, nabasa ko din yung nire-require nila na may COMELEC. So I thought, dire-diretso na yun kasi may mga requirements. So, yung pala, we shifted to this venue a few days ago. Yun ang naging decision, and the venue is quite important for us because of historical reasons. This is Bantayog ng mga bayani. We gusto naming i-highlight yung mga victims, i-honor yung mga victims and martyrs of martial law. Kaya dito namin ginawa. Pero yung bagay na yan, hinabol na namin, yung mga lawyers namin, nagpunta na doon sa COMELEC regional office. They also sent email to them and attached all the requirements. So ang hinihintay na lang namin, alam namin late na, pero yun nga yung mga nangyari. So hinihintay na lang namin sumagot sila kasi we found out na marami ring na-reject na nag-apply.
Okay.
So siguro, let's just go to the process. Meron naman kaming in-apply na, in-attach din namin yung application sa Quezon City Hall. And let's see, susunod kami sa mga kung anong sabihin ng COMELEC.
Well, Sir Sunny, everybody understands and knows why the bantay ng mga bayani is very important. Pero yun nga lang, itong oversight, in a way, unfortunately speaks volumes. No? So, tuloy ang iniisip ng tao, ano yun, para bang nasanay na lang po sina Leody and other, the labor groups na, di ba usually pag magrarally, minsan may problema sa permit or magrarally na lang, walang permit, sige, tuloy na lang natin. Ganun po ba yun? Para bang nasanay kasi sa lansangan. So, medyo ganito nangyari.
Yes, we're very sorry for the yung lapses na yan na nangyari kasi we own the responsibility. Kasi nga, pero yun yung parang background noong lapse na nangyari dyan sa pagkuha ng permit. So we also went out of our way to attach all the requirements na nilagay na namin nung una kaming mag-apply dito sa Quezon City Hall. And actually, hinintay muna namin yan kasi yung aming assembly dito, na-hold yan ng matagal kasi mayroong mga assembly sa iba't ibang lugar para magmarcha papunta dito. So sabi namin, hold muna kayo kasi mukhang may naging problema tayo. Saka lang nung malaman namin na naka-apply, nahabol yung mga attachment na gawa, saka lang namin sinabing, sige, go na tayo. Pero let's face up to the consequences dito sa problemang ito.
Alright. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, Sir Sunny. And kay Chrissy Di Matulak, ang aming reporter na nandiyan. I understand the rally for Leody de Guzman and Walden Bello is still going on there. Meantime, the boxing ring is not Malacanang. Manny Pacquiao may have hung up his gloves, but this doesn't mean the presidency is his for the taking. Still, the center is not throwing the towel into the ring and will try and go for a political knockout punch. If he doesn't win this round, he'll have to either retire or take a rest from politics as well, because he cannot return to the Senate after having served 1 6-year term. His campaign kicks off on the home front, from where Cian Arcangel is reporting live for us in General Santos City. Cian?
Pia, Senator Manny Pacquiao is banking on the support of Filipino voters from classes D and E to win the 2022 presidential race. Pacquiao returned to his hometown of General Santos City to launch his presidential bid. This place is special because it's here that he developed his desire to fight as a boxer and to help his family get out of poverty. From being an 8th Division World Boxing Champion, Pacquiao is now presenting himself as a fighter for the poor. It's a message that resonates here. Pacquiao's camp claims around 25,000 supporters gathered at the stadium to see the senator in person. 2 of Pacquiao's 10 senatorial candidates appeared in person for the campaign rally. They were former Eastern Samar Governor Edgardo Barbo and broadcaster Rafi Tulfo. Other senatorial candidates recorded video messages, while Senator Sherwin Gatchalian was represented by his celebrity girlfriend Bianca Manalo. Jensen has over 350,000 3,000 registered voters, while Region 12 or SOC Sargent, where the city is located, has 2.6 million voters. Right now, we are hearing Senator Manny Pacquiao speak about his presidential bid and his platform of government. Pia?
Sian, let's talk about strategy, campaign strategy and any possible shifts because syempre, day one pa lang ito, we have a long way to go, 90 days before May 9. At syempre, dapat recalibrated lahat. Paano ba magbabago ang kampanya ni Manny Pacquiao?
Pia, Pacquiao's camp is saying that they are focused on the ground. They are focused on wooing voters directly. They are not relying on local officials because, as we know, there is a rift within PDP Laban, and that is affecting the campaign of Senator Manny Pacquiao in the sense that he is having difficulty reaching out to some local officials who are connected to PDP Laban. But Pacquiao says that he is unfazed by his present standing in surveys, and he will intensify his on the ground, that's what he calls it, his on the ground campaign by reaching out directly to voters, and that is how he plans to improve his standing in surveys and possibly win the presidency. Pia?
All right, Sian Arcangel is there. I was wondering if we could listen in just a little bit to Senator Manny Pacquiao. Is it possible right now?
Yes, Pia, Pacquiao is speaking right now, but he is talking in Bisaya directly to the residents of the city. Pia?
Sa ating from the Mindanao.
Sian Arcangel there in General Santos City with the Manny Pacquiao campaign. We'll speak to the campaign managers of candidates Isco Moreno and others when we come back. This is a special episode of Politics as Usual. Be right back. Welcome back to a special episode of Politics as Usual. We are going to be showing the live point of Isco Moreno, Isco Moreno's proclamation rally in the city of Manila, in the nation's capital, in just a bit. The second to the youngest presidential candidate will only be in his early 50s if he chose to stay 2 more terms as mayor of the nation's capital and then gun for the presidency in 2028. So May 9, 2022 will be the ultimate test if Isco Moreno Domagoso made the right decision. Paulo Barcelon is assigned to the Isco Moreno campaign, and he is joining us from the city of Manila where the proclamation rally happened. And a little bit later on, Lito Banayo is joining Paulo. Paulo.
Hi, Pia. Good evening. We just witnessed the end of the proclamation rally of the Isco Moreno Willie Ong ticket. This is the first time since 2004 that the party Acción Democrático fielded a presidential and vice presidential slate. If you recall, Pia, in 2004, those candidates were the late former Senator Raul Roco and his running mate, the late Tarlac Congressman Hermie Aquino. We interviewed the Mayor Isco earlier today, Pia, and he said that he chose Manila because this is representative of Kilometer Zero. This is the reference point for all the kilometers or the distances that we see in the country. And for Mayor Isco earlier, he said that this city, the city of Manila, the city that gave him a chance to become its chief executive, it's only fitting for him to start his bid for the presidency and to have Manila as his very own Kilometer Zero. The entire day, the Moreno-Ong tandem was filled with activities. They had a mass earlier in the morning, and they also participated in a motorcade which lasted for almost 8 hours. They started in the morning and they arrived here around past 5 in the afternoon. And you talk about symbolism. You asked me, Pia, about symbolism. There are so many symbolisms in this proclamation rally. For instance, we are at the Kartilya ng Katipunan, one of the first places that Manila Mayor Isco Moreno ordered cleaned when he took office in 2019. Now this is the venue for his kickoff for the presidential bid. And speaking of presidential bid, we had people endorsing him. We're talking about Taguig City Mayor Lino Cayetano, the sibling of two key members of the Cayetano family who are aligned with the administration, former House Speaker and current Taguig Representative Alan Cayetano, who's also running for the Senate, and his sibling, Senator Pia Cayetano. We also saw earlier House Deputy Speaker PJ Garcia, who is also Secretary General of the One Cebu Party, expressing support for Mayor Isco. And you're hearing right now the song Posible by River Maya. A slightly different arrangement was done by the singer Jimmy Antiporda. The term posible, Pia, is one of the things that Mayor Isco asks people whenever he's on listening tours. He asks them, posible ba? Kaya ba? Is it possible? Is it something doable? And usually people answers with naman. So that's a testament to how much Mayor Isco tried to relate to the people that he wants to relate, and that's also the type of response that he gets from his supporters whenever they are on campaign tours or in the listening tours before the campaign period started. Now I have with me, Pia, the chief strategist of Team Isco Moreno, the one and only Ambassador Lita Banayo, who's joining us tonight. Manong Lito, magandang gabi po sa inyo. My first question, or my question would be, what's your assessment on day one of the campaign of Team Isco?
Awesome. I really didn't expect that number of people. What was planned to be a 4-hour to 5-hour journey from Santo Niño Cathedral in Tondo to Manila City Hall and the Kartilya ng Katipunan went past 8 hours with thousands and thousands of people lining up the streets, cheering him wildly. It's beyond our own expectations. And the level of support that we saw here at the Kartilya ng Katipunan from people we did not expect. For instance, Secretary John Castricciones, who is not only a founding director of MRRD, which initiated President Rodrigo Duterte's journey to the presidency, just called 2 nights before and said, can he be invited to this proclamation rally? Or Deputy Speaker Pablo John Garcia of Cebu, who recounted how Mayor Isco helped in so many disasters, so many problems in Cebu, without any media, without any fanfare, because it is in the nature of the person to help.
All right. Pia, I believe you have some questions for Manong Lito, so now's your opportunity to shoot the chief architect of Team Isco's campaign right now. Pia?
Yes, thank you, Paolo. Sir Lito, good evening and thank you very much for being on the show again. I wanted to ask, first about expressions of support for Isco Moreno. You talked about Secretary Castricciones, Deputy Speaker PJ Garcia. If we're talking about PJ Garcia, can his sister, Governor Gwen Garcia, be far behind? Also, Mayor Lino Cayetano, earlier I had asked Paolo, and he said that you said that regarding Pia and Alan, ang sagot nyo raw, it's a big family, no? So, anong mangyayari, no? Do we expect Alan in Isco's camp? Do we expect Pia to also support Isco? I mean, we're sure Alan won't support BBM, for example.
Congressman Lani, who's also going to run for mayor next time in Taguig. And it's a family matter, and we will be talking with him when he gets back in about 2 weeks or so. The level of support has been rather slow in coming, but sure. I mean, it's not as if this campaign ran on overheated engines, no? As in 60%, 54%, 51%, no? Because when it overheats, no, then you will see avalanche of people transferring, switching to Isco Moreno.
Switching, you're talking about switching.
Yes, I'm talking about switching. For one thing, we saw tonight, for instance, Secretary John Castricciones, who up to a few months ago was a member of the cabinet of President Duterte. And he was expecting that their party would have a presidential candidate. And when it did not have a presidential candidate, he decided with his heart, with his conviction, that this is the man for the times. This is the man he wants to support for President of the Philippines. There will be many more in the coming days, no? As people begin to realize that it's not about pinwheels, no? It's not about windmills in the air. It's about promises kept. It's about prototypes shown. It's about heart in governance, and that is Isco Moreno. That is how you define. That is how we and the people eventually will define Isco Moreno.
Sir Lito, interesting that you bring up pinwheels and windmills. You're alluding, I think, to Bongbong Marcos. Of course, there might have to be a little bit of recalibration in your strategy, given that it is day one of the campaign, the official campaign period. How are you going to change things around? Because, well, in pre-campaign surveys, BBM is still way ahead of the pack.
Yes, but I've seen such contests in the past. No, I remember, for instance, when we were still egging then Mayor Rodrigo Roa Duterte to run for president. We were as high as 38 points, no, pre-campaign in October. But because of one serious gaffe, which was the curse, the epithets hurled against the Pope, which was not really directed at the Pope. From 38, he went down to 20 in 1 month. No, so these things happen. No, and I've been in this long enough. I've seen how campaigns falter, and I've seen how persistence, the good message, and most important, a good candidate with a good heart can triumph over all the trials, over all the obstacles in his path.
So persistence and perseverance. And my last question to you, Sir Lito, will be what Paolo mentioned a while ago. Posible?
Posible.
Maraming,
his whole life, the life of Isco Moreno has been an impossible journey from abject poverty. No? By his own bootstraps, no? He became mayor of the capital of the Philippines, no? Manila. No? Could you imagine something like that? No? And now he's looking at ways and means to help the people of the Philippines go through this pandemic, aspire to be better times, no? Buhay at kabuhayan, and he is on the cusp of that golden opportunity to change the lives of our people, especially our children and our grandchildren.
All right, political veteran, someone who's seen so many campaigns, like he said, succeed or falter. Mr. Lito Banaya, sir, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, thank you to our correspondent, Paolo Barcelon, who is there covering the Isco Moreno campaign day one. Salamat din sa iyo, Paolo. Well, let's move on now. Leni Robredo's campaign is hoping she can replicate both a Cory victory in 1986 and a Noynoy win in 2010. But it's not as simple as good versus evil or evil circa 2010 versus Tuwid na Daan. The campaign, after all, took great pains to move away from the liberals, the so-called Dilawan or yellow associated with the opposition, and the Laban sign, opting instead to go independent, use pink and the rose as a campaign symbol. This was a last woman standing who beat Bongbong Marcos in 2016, and she wants to, as she told me late last year, slug it out with him via election rather than disqualification. Anjo Alimario is covering VP Leni for the duration of the campaign. He and Barry Gutierrez, campaign spokesman, joining us from Naga City, Camarines Sur, where Leni comes from and where she hopes she can count on a never-before-heard-of solid Bicol vote. A play, if you will, on the vaunted solid North that every Marcos relied on to win. Anjo?
Pia, the Vice President, is looking to Bicolanos joining millions of Filipinos nationwide to deliver and elect the last woman standing as the third Lady President of the Philippines. The so-called Pink Revolution is on, and it begins here in Naga City. Now, as you can see behind me, thousands of supporters show up here at Plaza Quezon, upbeat and energized to make history. The mood is festive and hopeful. And one thing you'll notice here is the mix of supporters, except for some who wore similar shirts. Many wore different shades of pink, carrying their own campaign paraphernalia. They express love and respect for Robredo. And if today would be a preview of the Leni Kiko campaign in the coming days, weeks, and months, it will be tedious and strategic. Now, as what supporters say, tao sa tao, kwento sa kwento, that's how the elections will be won by the Leni Kiko tandem. Robredo appeals to supporters to convert more so-called kakampings, be more reasonable, and be more patient, always reminding them mas radical ang magmahal. In the past months, we've been covering her since she formalized her candidacy back in October. Not once did she read from a prepared speech. It's all her. She made it a point to say how she feels at that particular moment. She wants to make her speeches personal, hoping her message won't fall on deaf ears. Yes, she is a distant second in pre-election surveys, but she isn't faced. She said she's been in this situation before. She overcame what she thought was impossible, from 1% to vice president. And she boasts of her track record as her receipts, her resibo to the people. That's why she dared to pledge angat gobyernong tapat, angat buhay lahat. And today, she ends her proclamation speech by saying, tara na, ipanalo na natin ito. And with me right now, Pia, joining me, is the spokesperson of Vice President and Presidential Candidate Leni Robredo. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Anjo. Good evening, Pia.
Sir, it's a great night. Concert, parang concert tayo ng River Maya kanina. But sir, with the overwhelming support of supporters and social media painted in pink, how will you sustain this kind of momentum?
Well, really, it's the people's campaign. That's what she's been talking about since day one. It's how we've been attempting to match the money and machinery of other candidates through the sheer volunteerism, energy, and enthusiasm of our own volunteers. And today's launch here in Naga is, indicative of that. It's a reflection of how the campaign will look like. Young, energetic, very hopeful, and, very full of enthusiasm for what can be done. The possibilities of hope and the possibilities of good governance that Leni Robredo stands for.
All right, sorry. Now I'll turn you over to Pia for more questions. Pia?
Yeah, Barry, hi. Good evening. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I wanted to ask, kasi kanina may report si Anjo about the possibility of going up north. So, syempre, ang tanong ng lahat, kailan ba pupunta si Leni sa Ilocos?
Wala pa. It's something that we will probably do later in the campaign. But right now, we are still focusing on the areas where we probably have a better chance of getting a larger percentage of the vote. So the launch is in Naga for Bailey Week. And in the next few days and weeks, probably we'll be focusing on areas where she had a fairly strong showing in 2016. But definitely, a visit to Ilocos will be on the agenda at some point.
Oh. Yung report ni Anjo nung isang araw, kahapon ata yun, Anjo, yung pinag-uusapan itong so-called the Bicolano vote, meron ba talagang ganoon? Or will this election, will the May 9 election, be the test kung meron ngang isang Bicolano vote? Is that possible? And medyo, syempre, aminin na natin, Barry, di ba? Nakakaya naman kapag hindi nag-number 1 si Leni sa Bicol, di ba?
Yes. Well, that's true, but we are completely confident that she will get the overwhelming level of support in Bicol that she got in the 2016 elections. Remember, in 2016, she was not the only Bicolano candidate running for vice president, but she ended up winning the entire Bicol region, all the provinces in the Bicol region, by around 60%. So we feel that this time around, she's the only Bicol candidate running for president. She has the chance to become the first Bicolano to be elected to Malacanang. So we expect a much higher level of support, a much higher turnout for her this time around. And if the support of local politicians, if the support of various people's organizations and ordinary citizens today and all the other days she has actually been here over the past few weeks is any indication, then we're well on our way to actually achieving that come the May election.
Well, it's always good for any politically astute observer to make that comparison between 2022 and the last national election, 2016. However, what we have here today is a Bongbong Marcos candidacy that is way ahead of the pack. 53%, etc. Of course, we know, pre-campaign surveys, no? So things can change. But ano ba yung shift in strategy na gagawin nyo? So, rosas na yung campaign symbol nyo, hindi na yung laban sign, matagal nyo nang tinanggal yung dilaw, ginawa yung pink, di ba? You know, parang moving away from the Liberal Party, except that her running mate is of course an LP. But what exactly are you going to do? Because ang layo ni Bongbong sa inyo di ba?
Well, malayo din si Leni Robredo noong 2016. Everybody seems to forget that she started out at 1%. She was a virtual nobody. Nobody gave her a chance at all to even make it to the top 2 or the top 3, let alone winning that particular election. While it's true that right now we're trailing by about 30 points, there are 90 days left until the elections, and she has overcome 30-point leads before. She has demonstrated that, and one thing going for us this time around, which was not present in 2016, is a massive army of volunteer support. I have never seen this, quite frankly, and the Vice President has always made it a point to talk about it because of its exceptional and unique nature. The idea that people themselves will self-mobilize, will self-finance, will initiate their own programs instead of waiting for the campaign or the candidate to tell them what to do. The power of that is really, I think, cannot be underestimated, and that's really the card we are banking on in the next 90 days. As you were saying earlier, tao sa tao ito, kwento sa kwento. Ibig sabihin, the person-to-person, community-to-community campaign is really on top of the traditional campaign we will be running through ads and through social media interventions, is really what we think is our ace in the hole here. No other campaign has that. No other campaign can match that. And I think that in the end, that will be sufficient to actually give her the victory in May.
Army of support, that, like you call it, has to show up in the surveys also. And at the same time, if you talk about, like you said, from 1% to vice president, we all know that. However, a 200,000 plus vote margin over your nearest rival should not be the case when you're running for president, right?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? It's so noisy here.
I was about to say, let's listen to the music na lang. But anyway, yeah. Well, I was just saying that yung 200,000 plus ang lamang niya kay BBM noong 2016. Pero ngayon na presidente na yung pinag-uusapan, dapat mas malaki doon, di ba? Kung mananalo siya, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, but a win is a... Yes, I can hear you. A win is a win. So whether she wins by 200,000 votes, 500,000 votes, or 1 million votes, it's going to be a win. We foresee it will be a very close election in the end. Obviously, the other campaigns, particularly the campaign of Mr. Marcos, have had a longer time to prepare. They have invested more in social media. They have invested more in traditional campaign machinery. So they have a head start. Literally, the Vice President only started building up her machinery and her campaign on October 7 after she declared that she was going to seek the presidency. But as I said, we are confident that with 90 days to go, we can slowly but surely make up the gap on riding on the strength of the People's Campaign. And if at the end of the day we win by 1% or 2%, then that's still a mandate. And what will be clear from that mandate is that she will be a president who will govern for all. She will not just be a president for those people who supported her. She's made that very clear from the outset. But, we first have to get through this election. And as I said, we are confident that with the support we are getting, we are confident that with the volunteer movement that has really come out to support her, we will be able to pull this thing through in May.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Attorney Barry Gutierrez, spokesperson for VP Leni Robredo, and of course to our correspondent over there, Anjo Alimario, who is covering the Robredo Pangilinan campaign until May 9 and beyond that, of course. We're going to have to take a quick break, but very quickly now, I just wanted to say that we did invite all, apart from our reporters, of course, reporting, we did invite campaign spokespersons for each of the campaigns. And as you've seen, we've already spoken to Sunny Melencio for Leody de Guzman, Lito Banayo for Isco Moreno, Barry Gutierrez for Leni Robredo. We're going to be speaking to Ronnie Puno also for Ping Lacson. And we did invite a representative from Bongbong Marcos' camp, but we're not sure that we can get to speak to one of them. But we do have our reporters on the ground. We're going to be taking a very quick break. This is Politics as Usual, a special episode to mark the first day, day one, of the national campaign for the May 9, 2022 elections. Be right back. Welcome back to a special episode of Politics as Usual. He ran for president in 2004 and came in third for the oldest presidential candidate in the race, the youthful-looking former Philippine National Police Chief and senator for 2 terms, a part of which he spent on the run, still feels he has not just much to prove, but much to offer as well. A tumultuous career and life only to be vindicated by the very woman who put him in the crosshairs of a controversy on the basis of a flimsy intelligence report. Ping Lacson's second quest for Malacanang begins in the place of his birth, Imus, Cavite. Our longtime police correspondent, George Cahiles, who is assigned to the Ping Lacson Tito Soto campaign, joins us from there, together with campaign strategist Ronnie Puno. George?
Will be banking on the support from the previous election. Senator Panfilo Lacson is hoping that Caviteños will rally behind him in his second attempt for presidency. And the campaign or the proclamation rally has just ended a while ago. And Senator Lacson says their campaign will be a standout, especially that they're pushing for enforcement of discipline during their campaign. Now, and this grandstand, Pia, is a witness to that earlier. And he says that thousands of people were here earlier, and they were seated properly on socially distant chairs. There were people collecting garbage earlier. There were marshals telling people to observe the minimum health protocols here. And with his running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, the tandem wants to focus on reaching the grassroots, and they want smaller consultation activities to common people to hear their concerns. And Lacson's Partido Reforma has an existing alliance to Soto's Nationalist People's Coalition and the National Unity Party, which is headed by former Interior Secretary Ronnie Puno. And he is with us right now. Secretary Puno, good evening po, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
Sir, can you tell us how this grassroots campaign strategy will work for Senator Panfilo Lacson and Senator Soto?
Well, I think in any election, really, direct contact with the people is very important. There's a big challenge now because of the health restrictions because of COVID, but we have to find a way around that. Find a way to be able to get to speak directly to the people, address their concerns, and tell them what we want to do for the people. Yeah.
All right. Sir, Pia Hontiveros is in the studio. She has questions for you.
Okay.
Good evening, Sir Ronnie Puno. Thank you so much for coming on the show again. I wanted to ask you first about this very, very interesting book by former President Gloria Arroyo, where she talked about that controversy surrounding Ping Lacson. And she said in so many words na naniwala siya sa isang intelligence report tungkol kay Senator Lacson, yun pala hindi totoo. How is that going to help in Senator Lacson's campaign?
Well, Pia, it just tells everybody that Senator Lacson has been telling the truth. No, all throughout, all the charges against him were false. The testimony was totally false, and it's good that now that's coming to light, and that was confirmed by no less than President Macapagal Arroyo herself.
Sir, I also wanted to ask you about Cavite. Earlier, George was talking about how Cavite, is it going to carry Ping Lacson or not? What are the chances? Because the governor there doesn't seem to believe that Cavite, that province with what, an estimated 2 million voters, can go for Ping?
You know, this phenomenon of native son voting, no, everybody always doubts it before an election, but when elections come around, really, that really proves to be the case all the time. Ping Lacson has always been number 1 or number 2 here, if I'm not mistaken, in Cavite, in all of his runs for the Senate. In fact, Tito Soto was saying earlier that he was number 9 when he came to Cavite, but when he started going around with Ping Lacson, he went up to number 2. So we're confident that Cavite will go for Ping Lacson. Most of the congressmen here, including the governor, of course, are members of our same party. They are all NUP members. NUP has a policy of not picking a particular candidate for president, no? But I feel that over time, because he is a native son, and because they are all, cut and dried public servants here in Cavite, I'm pretty sure that they're going to rally behind Ping Lacson when elections come around.
Well, kanina nga lang, kausap po natin si Barry Gutierrez of the Leni Robredo camp, and I was telling him, when it comes to the Bicol vote, na nakakaya naman pag hindi nag-number 1 si Leni. So I suppose ganyan din ang sasabihin natin about Ping. No? Nakakaya naman pag hindi pa siya nag-number 1 sa Cavite, and at least an honorable showing in Region 4 in Calabarzon. But also, Sir Ronnie, no, we have of course Bongbong Marcos still number 1 in the campaign service. Ang layo niya sa lahat ng iba pang kandidato. Ano ba yung magiging recalibration ng strategy ninyo? Because ang laki ng lamang na kailangan habulin nyo yun eh.
Well, yan lamang na ganyan. That was true in the case of Grace Poe. That was true in the case of almost all the previous elections. Now, you know, the first part of the election, from maybe prior to the filing of certificates of candidacy until the first week of October, is really pakilala. No? People just want to announce that they're actually, in fact, running for president. When they actually file, then they go around the country introducing themselves as a presidential candidate. You don't really get a chance to compare one candidate with another. Now we are approaching the campaign. Well, we are already into the campaign period. This is the time where you're going to see candidates go head-to-head. And, Ping Lacson has been a known quantity because he's been a senator for 18 years. The others, are relatively new. So, there is this novelty that comes in when they introduce themselves. Everybody knows who Ping Lacson is. But when you compare them side by side in the coming days, and we have already started to do this, you're going to see that our candidate is far and away the best of all of them. He is the most experienced, he is the most principled, he is the most proven, and I know that the people are going to see this in the coming months.
Well, Secretary Ronnie Puno, another political veteran who everyone respects. Sir, maraming salamat po. And thank you very much for joining us on the show tonight. And of course, to our reporter there, our longtime police correspondent, George Cahiles. Thank you, George, for coming on the show and reporting. We go over to the Philippine Arena in Santa Maria, Bulacan, where former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Slate is holding their proclamation rally. This is a special episode of Politics as Usual. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching a special episode of Politics as Usual. It is day one of the national campaign for the May 2022 elections. Bongbong Marcos, #1 in pre-campaign surveys, a result critics like to claim of a successful rebranding by the family 35 years since a people power unseated his autocratic father and was exiled. Never lost an election when he ran for governor, congressman, and senator, except for that debacle in 2016 when he came up 200,000 plus votes short for the vice presidency. Marcos and his running mate Sara Duterte and their senatorial slate in the 55,000 capacity Iglesia ni Cristo-owned Philippine Arena in Santa Maria, Bulacan. Rex Remito joins us from there together with the Unity hindi pala kasama si Ben sayang. Well, Rex Remito is still there with us. Rex, ano ba nangyari dyan?
Well, it feels like a concert with immense production, and even actress Toni Gonzaga hosting the event. She became controversial when she interviewed Marcos last September 2021. Various singers and rappers even performed on a stage during the rally. Even former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque was all out during his dance number. And organizers are saying that about more than 20,000 attended the event. And attendees have to line up for their tickets before they can enter the arena. Some of them have been here as early as 9 a.m., braving the hot weather. But apart from all the vibe, lights, and sounds, political analyst Dennis Coronacion sees this as a campaign tactic by the Unity Alliance. Take note that the Philippine Arena is owned by Iglesia ni Cristo, known for commanding its members to vote for candidates their leaders are endorsing.
Parang ini-imply dito that there's some kind of endorsement by Iglesia ni Cristo of the two candidates.
Coronacion also says it could also be a way for the Unity Alliance to court the INC because using the giant arena would also mean revenues for the religious group. On the selection of their senatorial bets, he says it's based on their winnability rather than principles or platforms since they're coming from familiar names in Philippine politics. So what's next for the BBM Sara campaign? They will focus on face-to-face sorties and motorcades. They believe this is still the most effective way to reach out to the masses. They will only campaign in areas under COVID-19 alert levels 1 or 2. Marcos's National Campaign Manager Benher Abalos also says that the presidential candidate will attend those debates that are sanctioned by the Commission on Elections. The Marcos earlier drew flack from netizens for skipping some of the one-on-one interviews and debates of different institutions. Back to you.
Rex, let's start with the number of people there at the Philippine Arena. So 55,000 ang capacity, and the campaign had already said hanggang kalahati lang ang gagawin nila dahil nga sa IATF regulations. Are you in any way able to estimate, do a crowd estimate? How many people were there? Napuno ba nila yung kalahati ng Philippine Arena?
Well, according to organizers, umabot daw ng 25,000 yung crowd kasi makikita naman daw na napuno mula taas hanggang baba. Kalahati lang ito nung 50,000 na capacity ng arena kasi kailangan nilang i-observe yung physical distancing measures ng health department. Pero syempre, aalamin pa rin natin sa authorities kung ilan talaga yung naging bilang ng tao sa loob. But so far, makikita naman even sa videos na napuno yung loob ng arena. Pia.
And would you know, Rex, kung if this was paid for or was it given or allowed for use for free?
Well, there's no much discussion coming from either the BBM or the Sara camp in terms of paano nila nakuha itong Philippine Arena, no? When we're asking them kung is it like sponsored by the INC or did they pay the INC, they're saying that they're not in duty to disclose any of those details. But one thing is for sure is that according nga dun sa mga political analysts, it's a matter of show of force, and at the same time, it's also a matter of implying that maybe they're backing Iglesia ni Cristo or they're being backed by Iglesia ni Cristo.
Huling tanong na lang sa'yo, Rex. This question kasi should have been for Ben Abalos himself, but we understand he can't make it. But I wanted to ask you, and by the way, talagang pang-concert yung setup nilang ganda, pati ilaw maganda. But anyway, Rex, I wanted to ask you, kasi kanina ang tanong ko sa ibang kampo, ano ba yung kailangan nilang gawin? Ano bang recalibration sa campaign strategy yung gagawin nila? Dahil kailangan nilang habulin si BBM, di ba? Dahil sobrang layo niya. So ang tanong ngayon para sa BBM Sara camp is how do they protect that lead? What are they going to do para at the end of the day, by May 9, 2022, number 1 pa rin si BBM? Anong kailangan nilang gawin to protect that lead?
Well, sa lahat kasi ng mga teams ng candidates, kumbaga sila lang yung mas mahigpit in terms of interviews, sila yung hindi masyadong nag-grant ng interviews, sila rin yung hindi masyadong nagpapa-interview kapag may request during sorties, and at the same time, pili rin yung pag-attend nila sa mga interviews. For example, ang mas gusto raw nilang attendan ay yung mga one-on-one interviews kasi mas madidiscuss daw, especially ni Marcos, yung kanyang platforms. Pero kapag debates daw, ay kumbaga limitado yung oras. Yun yung kanilang dahilan. Pero ayon nga rin kay Coronasyon, nung tinanong ko to, ay posibleng tactic din ito, para yun nga, less talk, less mistake, especially that they're the number 1, so they have more to lose than any of the other candidates.
Pero sayang pag hindi siya sumama sa debate. I remember the vice presidential debate, our vice presidential debate in 2016. Well, he did quite well and was a very popular guest during that debate. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Rex Remitio, our correspondent, and he's going to be covering the Bongbong Marcos Sara Duterte campaign for the entire duration of the campaign for the May 9, 2022 elections. Now, we've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Thanks for watching our special episode tonight. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.